Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports Select Sports Talk. I'm your host, Mitchell Clinton, coming to you from 145 Pacific Avenue here in the city of Winnipeg in the Manitoba Sport Hall of Fame. Let's get right to it, starting with the opening kickoff. The next Bombers home action is July 19th when the defending Grey Cup champions Toronto Argonauts come to town, looking to even up that home record at this point. Obviously lost the home opener to the Montreal Alouettes, but you know what, it ended up being quite a good game. Remember that third quarter? Hopefully we can see the Bomber offense kind of maintain that a little bit better against Toronto. And then, of course, the week after, the Calgary Stampeders come to town. So 2 back-to-back home games for the Blue Bombers. You want to head over to bluebombers.com to find more ticket information on that. Moving along to the Winnipeg Goldeyes. Obviously, you know, they're out of the playoff picture at this point, but I mean, it's the American Association. All that stuff can change really quickly, especially when they have the homestand coming up that I'm about to tell you about. Tuesday this week, so it'll be July 9th. It'll be their last home game out of an 8-game homestand. But after that, they got an 8-game road trip. When they come back, 16 of their next 19 games are at home. They have a 3-game trip into Fargo, somewhere in the middle of it all. But really, let's take a look. They've got a 3-game series with Sioux Falls, a 4-gamer with Trois-Rivières of the Can-Am League, then a 3-game series with Lincoln. Then there's that 3-game series against Fargo, and then they're back at home again. So once again, 16 of 19 games after this 8-game road trip will be at Shaw Park. Goldeyes.com is where you want to go to get more ticket information. And the Winnipeg Jets, it's already time for development camp. It's been a crazy finish to the season with the Stanley Cup going to Chicago, and then all of a sudden it was time for the entry draft. Then it was free agent frenzy, and what a frenzy it was. Obviously the Winnipeg Jets getting Devin Setoguchi. Interesting to see how he fits into the Jets. You won't see him at development camp, but you will see prospects like the first overall, or first round pick, I should say, from this year, Josh Morrissey, and as well as Nick Patan. We'll get to Nick Patan a little bit later on in the show. That's your opening kickoff. Moving to the Pat on the Back Club, we're going to give it to a couple of Manitoba Bison volleyball players, those being Chris Voth and Derek Naroda. They're over in Kazan, Russia, playing in the Summer Universiade. A number of Winnipeg athletes are over there. Those are just 2. If you want more information on that, gobisons.ca is the place to go. You can read up on these great players that have been into the Manitoba Bison system for a long time, and now they're showing their stuff on a world level. We're going to go to break. When we come back, Rick Brownlee from the Manitoba Sport Hall of Fame, where I sit right now, will be here to talk about the inductees going in 2013 and how you can see the induction ceremonies yourself. Coming up a little bit later is Adam Wedlake, and of course the tweet of the week and my minute of fame. So much more to come on Sports Select Sports Talk. We'll be right back.
United voice of sport in Winnipeg.
Welcome back to Sports Select Sports Talk, and joining me now is Rick Brownlee, the Sport Heritage Manager here at the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. First off, thanks for letting us have the show here. I wanted to make sure that was out there.
It's our pleasure. Yeah.
We're going to talk about the big induction dinner coming up November 2nd, obviously a little bit of a ways away yet, but want to get people familiar with some of the athletes going in. A couple of them are going to ring a bell. I mean, without much thinking back, but there's a few that you might want to touch on. And I mean, first off, the induction dinner November 2nd. If people want ticket information, where can they get that?
They can find us on the website at ManitobaHallOfFame.ca.
Cool.
Or they can call my office at 925-5736, area code 204.
Perfect. So that's nice and easy. That's the easiest way to get tickets for the event, November 2nd, like I said. I guess we'll start. We'll just kind of go start by running through them here, starting with athletes. Faye Finch going in, all-around athlete, of course.
Alphabetically, yeah. Faye was one of those gifted athletes that anything she tried, she excelled at. She not only was competent at the sport, but she was really good at it. Her main sport is softball, and she was one of the greatest outfielders that I think Manitoba's produced on the female side. Unfortunately, in terms of her era in that, she wasn't in the golden era where they used to pack the stadiums with 4,000 or 5,000 people in the St. Vital Tigrettes and CUAC Blues days. And she isn't in the Smitty's era and that sort of thing, where a lot of them are going to the national championships and the ones that we have in the Hall of Fame. Faye was in between there for a good 3 to almost 4 decades of softball competition, had to retire with some knee surgery. But she was also an excellent handball player, like team handball player, and track and field athlete. Danny Johnson often jokes with me that she's Kelvin's greatest athlete, so from Kelvin High School. Pretty much you name it, Faye has done it, and then of course she's gone back to give back to sport, working with Sport Manitoba and the Manitoba Sports Federation before that. Excellent.
Keeping the athletes going anyways, this one is one of those names that's not going to need a whole lot of thinking back. That's Dale Hawerchuk, of course, of the Winnipeg Jets 1.0. He's finally going in.
Yes, and we got a picture of the duck here that we can have for the camera to zoom on for a little footage. I think the neat thing about Hawerchuk, and the thing you have to represent when you're looking at his career, is that he's not born in Manitoba. So to meet our criteria, you've got to look at the window of opportunity of his 9 years of career from 1981 to 90, when he was a member of the Winnipeg Jets and resided here. Married a local girl from Gimli and Crystal. But even that resume of work is so impressive. I mean, he was a first overall pick, two-time Memorial Cup champion with Cornwall. Immediately as an 18-year-old, we're sitting here looking at Mark Scheifele nowadays, saying, exactly, when is he going to make it and stuff like that. Well, Hawerchuk went in as an 18-year-old, a polished 18-year-old, won the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year for the Jets, and pretty much became the face of the franchise from day one. Like, an amazing thing. Albeit, and granted, that was a pretty weak Jets team because they really took away a lot of our talent when we joined the NHL after the WHA glory years. But, several 100-point seasons, including a 130-point season, made the second All-Star team once. And before people scoff at that and go, big deal, second All-Star team, you got to remember he was playing at a time when Wayne Gretzky was playing in his own conference. And Mario Lemieux was playing. Steve Yzerman was playing. The list goes on. So for him to crack that is just amazing. And also we can look at, during his 9-year career when he lived in Winnipeg, his contributions to the Canada Cup. And most people remember that 1987 Canada Cup with all those 6-5 games as very exciting. And that shows the depth of Dale Hawerchuk's career, because on that team, he was put into a checking role and a face-off specialist. He excelled at it. He won the draw that fed up the ice for Lemieux and Gretzky for that series-winning goal. And we're really looking forward to Dale coming back home with his wife and family and celebrating his glorious career with the Winnipeg Jets.
Just one reason to get tickets for that event, November 2nd. Keeping the athletes going, another name that's not going to need a whole lot of thinking back is Corey Koski.
Yeah, I got a little picture of Corey here that Baseball Manitoba did. This was part of a campaign when they were appealing to kids that, yes, you can make the big leagues too, because this is born in Winnipeg but raised in Enola and learned his ball in Enola. And we hope to have the entire town out of Enola out on November 2nd and celebrate with the Koski family. Again, a really gifted athlete. I mean, he was a goaltender with the Selkirk Steelers in the MJHL. Talked to Dennis Nord and some people, and he probably could have made the national team in volleyball if he'd stuck with that as his chosen sport. He chose baseball and had some career injuries with concussions and things like that, but there was a period of time with the Minnesota Twins when he was one of the best third basemen in the game. And he has a record that we have in our press kit for third baseman with how many hits, how many stolen bases, how many RBIs he got in 1 year. So he brought, for at least a couple of seasons in Minnesota, that 5-tool package that everyone's looking for when they're trying to find the ball player. And we're very proud to have him come up from the States and be inducted as well.
It's interesting, the next builder that's coming in, given who's coming up on the show next, is Adam Wedlake, his son, but Bill Wedlake's going in for basketball. Yeah,
and Bill, certainly a number of sports that he's been involved with in his phys ed career and as administrative career at the University of Winnipeg. We're mainly focusing on his basketball contributions. as high energy and passionate a basketball coach as you're going to find in the country. And we were fortunate enough to have him with a long career here at St. John's High School and then at the University of Winnipeg, and then another 8 years as their athletic director, to the point where they thought so much of him that their fitness center is named in his honor. So Bill, very humble and looking very much forward to the entire Wedlake family and clan coming out and celebrating his induction.
It's a fitness center at the University of Winnipeg. I probably should have spent a little bit more time in, but
You and me both.
yeah. But alas, here we are talking about these great athletes. Art Warrior, we're going into the all-around category. There's only one going in that regard, but Art Warrior from table tennis.
Yes, and this is table tennis's first inductee, so a big deal for that. We always like to say that we represent 70 different sports, and in actuality, we're not quite there at 70 yet, but 70 are eligible. And Art Warrior, Mr. Table Tennis in Manitoba, certainly an astounding athlete in his day, competing as an individual and pairs at the national level for a number of years, for a long time, and then taking the administrative level to the next step, building the Table Tennis Manitoba, or MTTFA.
It's a long acronym.
Long acronym, that sort of thing. Just don't call it ping pong.
Yes, exactly.
It's table tennis in his eyes. And a former national president, a long-time international rep for table tennis. And we're finally able to celebrate his career on November 2nd as well.
And finally, moving into the teams, there's a couple that are going to be going in. We'll have to do these ones a little bit quickly, but the 1936, 42, and 49 Ken Watson curling teams, and the 1983 to 88 Carmen Goldeyes.
Right. The Watson ones, quickly, Ken Watson is in as an individual athlete, but his teams have never been represented. And it's because we've had so much success in curling in Manitoba that the bar for induction was world champion. Well, now we're starting to catch up with national champions, which would be more than enough for most other sports.
Right.
And there's a 3-time national champion in him and his brother with a different front end in all 3 years. And the Goldeyes dynasty from 83 to 88, a glory years of senior men's baseball in Manitoba, when they went as club teams and that sort of thing on to Westerns, and even when they changed up in 86, I believe, and started sending an all-star team, prominent players from that Carmen era were part of that Team Manitoba team that went on to success on the national level.
Great information as always. Thanks a lot for this, Rick.
All right, thanks, Mitch.
All right, we're going to go to break. As promised, Adam Wedlake joins us on Sports Select Sports Talk.
Great job. We got one place, so let's make this count.
I touched the ball before it went out, Coach.
Come on, Alex. The ref did not call that. It's a championship game.
I touched it. It's their ball.
Don't foul them when they inbound.
Alex.
Good call.
Sportsmanship. Pass it on.
Right.
Welcome back to Sports Select Sports Talk. Joining me now, as promised, is Adam Wedlake, the Executive Director of Basketball Manitoba. And Adam, before we kind of get into the NBA draft and how important that ended up being for basketball in the country, I mean, how's the summer going over at Basketball Manitoba?
Well, it's a busy summer. We have Canada Games. It's every 4 years that occurs. We get to participate in that this summer. We're getting our teams ready for that. We got a number of warm-up tournaments and events that we take our teams to. We go out west and then into Minneapolis to some AAU tournaments to get our teams ready, working on the fine-tuning of everything through July. And then the Canada Games for our 17U program comes in August, and our 15U program goes to Newfoundland for their national championship. So busy summer.
Nice, no kidding. Exciting times coming up, of course, with the Canada Games. And one more thing before the draft, another Wedlake. Bill, it's going to be a big, I guess not necessarily summer, but November 2nd, the big induction dinner. He's going into the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, great news. My father, obviously, but very proud. He's a guy that I always look up to and try to emulate. He was in sport administration for years, coaching, but then finished his career at the University of Winnipeg as the athletic director. And so somebody that I look up to every day, and then very proud to have him being recognized by the sporting community, like you said, in November.
And you'll be swinging by right here at the Manitoba Sport Hall of Fame and checking out his exhibit, I'm sure.
Of course.
So now let's shift to that NBA draft. Obviously, super exciting. It's been a few weeks now, but Anthony Bennett goes first overall to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, your thoughts when that happened?
Well, I think he summed it up the best when he was his first interview. He was asked, and he said, "I'm as surprised as everybody else." Really? And so the talking heads out there looked at him as maybe a top 10 pick, maybe a top 5, but to go number 1 overall, really what it does, it just shows a barometer of where basketball in our country is moving. There's the phenom coming out next year that everybody was looking at and is predicting a number 1 draft pick in Andrew Wiggins. But to see what may now be a back-to-back 2 number 1 overall picks going in the NBA out of Canada is probably something we would never have ever thought that would happen.
And there will be an American revolution if 2 Canadians go first overall back-to-back. You know a lot of people that are in basketball across the country just through, Canada games and whatnot. Have you noticed the conversations picking up? Have you kind of got their opinions? Are they, equally as surprised? And what have you found? It's been quick, but have you seen maybe a slight increase? You mentioned Wiggins and then of course Bennett himself. Have you noticed a little bit of a bump in some interest anyways?
Well, it's early on that front, but I can probably relate it back to 2 other sort of barometers that we've seen over the last 15 years. The first one, I think that, when I first started in this position was in '95 when the Toronto Raptors and the Vancouver Grizzlies, but mainly the Raptors because they stuck around, came onto the Canadian sports scene. I think that really put basketball sort of more top of mind, just with respect to media, with just respect to just awareness of opportunities, and then the second being when Steve Nash sort of really cut his teeth in the league and was recognized with 2 back-to-back MVP awards in the league. It's one thing. It's an achievement for a Canadian to sometimes just get on a team, but let alone be recognized as the best player in the league twice in a row. And he put himself up there with legendary players that not too many have had. Two recognitions like that. So to see this is, I'd say, sort of a third wave, and now to see not only just Canadians getting in the NBA, which has been done for generations, but to see them being identified worldwide as the best player or players. There was another Canadian draft in the first round as well, Kelly Olynyk from British Columbia, and by the Celtics. And that's he was 13th overall, and to have 2 out of the 30 come from Canada, with 1 being number 1, is huge. And we'll start seeing that. And I think it brings the kids that are playing the game today that closer to reaching for that brass ring or that feeling of I can do this.
We'll kind of shift over into Andrew Wiggins playing college in Kansas. Expected to be first overall next year. Anything can happen with the draft. Anthony Bennett, he was just a surprise. But to have back-to-backs in Canadian basketball, first overall picks. It's hard to really even put into words, especially, maybe 5-6 years ago when it maybe wasn't going to be the case. Yeah,
I think one of our coaches in our programs, Kirby Shep, has worked, he's a University of Manitoba coach, has worked with coaching a lot of these guys in a younger stage when he's worked with the Canadian national cadet team and has coached some of these guys. And I remember him saying this a few years ago that Canadian basketball worldwide is very hot. And this is what the age he was looking at, that 14 to 18 range, and that was a couple years ago. Now we're starting to see these kids that were forecasted when they were 15, 16-year-olds now becoming recognized worldwide. Andrew Wiggins, for those that may not know, from Southern Ontario, but has played through the U.S. prep school system for the last couple years. He was the most sought after high schooler coming out, ranked number 1. There's all these different ranking systems that are out there that run, and was by far the most sought after recruit, and has chosen to play at Kansas. He's so-called the one and done category, which means he'll play for the year and most likely will come out early in the draft next year. Like Anthony Bennett was. He was at UNLV this year, played the 1 year, and it's the temptation is there, and most jump at it. And so what this is all leading towards on the national scale for us is to see the 2016 games in Rio as potentially a nice pinnacle point, that these kids, they won't be kids anymore. These young men will have those couple more years playing at the best league in the world, and with a number of others that are up and coming players, seeing Canada not only qualify for the Olympics for basketball, which for men haven't happened since 2000. That was Steve Nash's last run with Canada. So by then it'll be 16 years that Canada has not qualified for an Olympics for men's basketball. Long overdue. It's not only one thing we qualify, but by the sounds of what's sort of happening right now, we might actually do something there. Not just show up and be happy to show up, but to actually make a difference there.
And you mentioned the lure of leaving school early to go into the draft. I mean, if there was a draft for sportscasters, I probably would have left school early. Wouldn't have gone first overall, but I would have felt the lure, like you mentioned. So what, like, I mean, as the executive director of Basketball Manitoba, when do these players start to come on the radar? Is it, making a provincial team early, or is it, performing well at something like the Canada Games? When do they kind of start to get on the radar for universities, let's say?
It's probably around that age 14 or 15. There's always, we call them, there's the green bananas and yellow bananas. We want to find the green bananas that may have that potential. You look in the crystal ball and see if this male or female player has that potential to play at that next level. There's a lot of players that may win for you today, but tomorrow they may peak out and max out at the age of 15 or 16. We don't want to see that, but we have to look at those kids that are potentials that could become in the next 5 years. So it's that age range, mainly usually a provincial team that a young athlete gets involved with, gets them to a national championship, and that typically gets them on a radar for either the national team program or others that which the lure to the U.S. is not only there for the NBA, obviously at the high level, but like in a case like Andrew Wiggins, he's been playing in the U.S. school system, I think, since he was 13. And so he's left home and gone to play in this so-called prep school system in the States, which for some, it's a great opportunity, great experience. For others, unfortunately, it's sometimes a tough experience to learn some hard lessons, and not everybody's going to be a number one draft pick, unfortunately, and that's the realities of life. But we're seeing more and more kids, and that's what allows us as our sport, when we start seeing these kids reach these high pinnacle points, just to attract and retain as many young athletes as we can.
One last question for you. I mean, you mentioned the Canada Games at the top of the interview here, and I guess your thoughts as Executive Director of Basketball Manitoba. How do you think Manitoba's going to do?
Well, we have our work cut out for us this year, and mainly because last summer was our most successful year as a province with our provincial team program ever. We brought home, out of our 6 provincial teams, 3 of them came home with silver medals, national medals. And so that's great, fantastic. Yeah. What have you done for us lately kind of thing? And we got to now take it to and return as medalists to hopefully bring home that same level medal, or a medal of some sort, or even get a little higher. And the Canada Games brings, we have a national championship every year, regardless of the Canada Games or Western Canada Games. But in the Games years, there's that much more focus, more attention, more expectations. So we've got our, like I said, work cut out for us. But so far, it's early to see right now. But our teams are coming back with the same coaching staff. Probably half the players are returning from last year's successful programs, but every other province is now they're gunning for us. Yeah. That's something that we're typically not in that role. We're usually like last year we were the giant killer. We came in, I think, for our 17U guys, we were the number 5 seed, number 6 seed, and nobody saw us coming. And we knocked off an Alberta team and a Quebec team that were looking at Ontario. Ontario is the team, obviously, to beat, and we caught them napping. And our girls program beat Ontario, which Ontario girls program hadn't lost in, I think it was 12 years, lost a game at all, let alone They were repeat national champions for 12 years in a row, and we caught them in overtime, and that was a giant killer in our eyes, and was great. So now we got to come back and do it again, and follow it up, and be strong, and represent our province well.
And I'm sure you will. Thanks a lot, Adam, for taking the time to talk to us on Sports Select Sports Talk today.
Thanks.
We're going to go to break. We'll come back with my tweet of the week and my minute of fame right after this.
Oh, what a beautiful world, what a beautiful world this world could be.
Welcome back to the final segment of Sports Select Sports Talk from the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame in downtown Winnipeg. Let's get right to the tweet of the week. And this week's tweet comes from Evan Gill of the Manitoba Bison's football team. And you can imagine the excitement around that team right now. Training camp coming up in August, and they're in this new stadium, new facilities, and I've seen a few of the facilities. Went on a little walk around with Chris Zook and Brian Dobie there, and it is amazing. And it's just a complete upgrade from from the Butler Hut. We'll leave it at that. If you've ever seen the Butler Hut, you know what I'm talking about. Investors Group Field is quite the upgrade. Anyways, Evan Gill says, some promo shots for the upcoming season, hashtag Bisons 2013 at Investors Group Field. Now here's the picture that went with it. First off, and I think I say this every time I talk about Evan Gill, this man is huge. He's big. I would not want to be squaring off against this guy right up on that. If I'm an offensive lineman, he's a defensive lineman, I'm losing that battle every single time. But I guess that's why I'm not playing CIS football at all. Anyways, obviously cool to see the lights that they've got on him, and you know what, I'm curious to see what intro they come up with over at the University of Manitoba. First game for the Manitoba Bison's football team is August 30th, and it's going to be under the lights. The first under the lights game the Bison's football team has played in a very, very long time. Might be the first one ever, but don't quote me on that one. Chris Zook will have more information on that leading up to the season, as you know. Moving to my minute of fame, and we're going to talk about Nick Patan. I mentioned him at the top of the show. He was the Jets pick in the second round. He was the co-leader in the WHL in points, and I mean, anytime you're near the top of that list, you're doing something well offensively. Of course, the only knock on Patan is he's a little short. He's 5'9". I'm curious to see him, maybe a little bit more so than Josh Morrissey, just because the Winnipeg Jets as a team, of course, goals against is something that you want to manage, but the Jets have always had trouble scoring and scoring consistently. Nick Patan is going to be the guy that might be able to help with that, assuming he can break into the league with that size challenge that he has. But I played hockey, not at the level, obviously, that these guys are at, but anytime that you had a shorter player on your team, that player, if he really wanted to take the next step, had a work ethic that was unrivaled. And I think that's what Nick Patan is going to need. And I think he also brings a certain level of experience. Now, the WHL playoffs and the Memorial Cup are not the NHL playoffs. I understand they're not the same thing. I will concede that. But he played on the Winterhawks team that in 2010-2011 went to the WHL final, didn't win that one. Played on the Portland Winterhawks team that went to the 2011-2012 final, lost to Edmonton, of course. But then, of course, he was on the team this past year, the same year that he led the WHL in points with his line mate Brendan Leipsic, also from Winnipeg, of course. He was instrumental in that playoff run, won them the WHL championship finally, and they went on to the Memorial Cup, lost in the final to a powerhouse team that ended up winning that one. But anytime you have championship experience, national level experience, it's going to help you when it comes to making that adjustment to the NHL and getting into the playoffs like the Winnipeg Jets want to do. Hopefully Nick Patan can be a part of that. I want to thank Adam Wedlake and Rick Brownlee for coming on the show this week. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching Sports Select Sports Talk.